Hey there, teacher friend. Before we jump in, we want to invite you to something we know you're going to love.
The second annual Teacher Summer Talks is our free summer audio summit for teachers, and it's happening June 23rd through the 26th. This is your shortcut to feeling prepared and confident for back to school without giving up your summer to do it.
We've gathered over 35 amazing teachers to share quick, practical tips that you can actually use so you walk into next year feeling calm, clear, and totally classroom ready. And the best part, it's all audio. No Zoom links, no screens, just pop in your earbuds and hit play from the pool, the car, or wherever summer takes you.
So if you're ready to get your teaching game plan together with just the right amount of fresh start energy, we would love for you to join us. Grab your free ticket at secondstorywindow.net/summit. We can't wait to see you there. This is episode 198 of Teacher Approved.
On Thursdays this summer, we are sharing a weekly can't miss classic, one of our favorite teacher-approved episodes that's full of timely takeaways.
We handpicked these classic episodes to be ones that we know you'll want to hear this summer as you recover and prepare for a new school year. And we're going to start each episode by sharing why we think this episode is a must listen.
This week's can't miss classic episode is about end-of-year reflection. And it doesn't take a genius to know that teachers are tired this time of year.
Yeah, tired probably doesn't even scratch the surface. More like bone weary, exhausted is probably a more fitting description.
And that is why we are sharing this can't miss classic episode with you today. This originally aired at the end of last school year, but we feel like this is the perfect moment to revisit the topic of reflection.
Now, we are absolutely not trying to add more to your to-do list right now, but we also know that there's a certain kind of magic that happens in these windows of transition that really can't be replicated at other times of the year.
Yeah, it's a use it or lose it kind of situation. If you don't have the bandwidth to give this a moment's thought, that is totally okay. Let this conversation wash over you and then just keep going.
But if you are in a position to use this transition time as a springboard, reflection is the ideal place to start.
Now, we're not into any kind of overwhelming guilt trip conversation. This is more like a cozy chat with a friend who actually gets what it's like to be a teacher in June.
Right. It's all about giving your future teacher self a few gifts, like clarity about what worked, insight into what didn't, and simply having a chance to celebrate everything that you pulled off this year.
We'll share some great reflection questions in this episode, and they're organized by different parts of teacher life. So pick the questions that speak to you, ignore the ones that don't, and maybe you can jot a few things down if you feel up to it.
And hey, if nothing else, we hope this episode reminds you that you showed up, you did hard things, and the fact that you are still thinking about how to improve means that you have done more than enough. So let's get into it. You're listening to Teacher Approved, the podcast helping educators elevate what matters and simplify the rest. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Emily. We're the creators behind Second Story Window, where we give research-based and teacher-approved strategies that make teaching less stressful and more effective. You can check out the show notes and resources from each episode at secondstorywindow.net.
We're so glad you're tuning in today. Let's get to the show.
We love giving gifts.
And we especially love giving gifts to our future selves. And we want to help you give gifts to your future self too. So make sure you check out last week's episode where we shared 3 things that you can do now that will be gifts to your back to school self.
And your back to school self deserves all the gifts you can get. So let's give you another one. This week we have the gift of helping next year run a little smoother. And who doesn't want that?
But only you can decide what that gift looks like. And that decision is going to require some reflection.
Now, reflection comes naturally to some people because I'm looking to optimize everything all the time. Pinpointing areas for improvement is second nature. But reflection is more than just listing everything that needs to be fixed. That part's the easy part for me. We also want to make room for celebrating the good.
Not to brag, but one of my professors did say I had the best self-reflection of anyone in the class.
Ugh, does sound like you're bragging, actually.
Okay, maybe a little bit. But funny enough, I have never had the opportunity to brag about that particular compliment.
Well, I'm glad we could provide this opportunity for you.
It's probably not going to shock anyone listening that I am a lot like you, Emily, in that I also love to pinpoint areas for improvement.
Did I or did I not finish Easter dinner by telling you what I needed to do differently next year?
No comment. But pausing to recognize the good just does not come as easily to me. But if we are constantly focused on overhauling problems, it is so easy to burn out.
Plus, ignoring what's going well makes it harder to repeat those things in the future. So there are real benefits to purposefully focusing on the positives when it's time to start reflecting.
And if you are someone who struggles with reflection for other reasons, whether that's because you don't like to take the time or you don't want to have to face the negative feelings that might crop up, that's totally okay. Reflection is a practice. It doesn't require any talent. It just requires effort. And like all practices, it is something that gets easier the more you do it.
Positive change requires reflection. There's really no shortcut for that, unfortunately.
And what better time for reflection than at the closing of one chapter and the start of another?
So we've got several questions to help get your reflection gears turning.
So I am going to wax poetic about reflection questions for a minute. And I'm fully aware of how odd that sounds, but just stick with me. So a reflection question is like a flower blooming with insight.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if flowers bloom with insight, but they should. Or at least they are in this moment. So when you gather multiple flowers into a bouquet, you create more beauty than each individual flower can achieve on its own. In the same way, a single question can surface thoughts that are valuable by themselves. But when you gather meaningful questions together, you have a really powerful tool for change.
That was poetic. But that is the benefit of meaningful reflection. We also don't have to force ourselves to generate responses to questions that aren't leading our thoughts deeper.
And I think that's important to remember. Not every question is going to be useful in every situation. So as we go through our questions, don't feel like you have to respond to them all. Really only answer the ones that feel worthwhile to you.
If it's convenient while you're listening, pause and consider your responses to the questions that apply to you. But if you want a more formal way to reflect, we have a freebie for you.
Not only does this freebie include a reflection journal page, but we have the 3 lists that we mentioned last week, a to-do list, a fix-it list, and a to-do list. It's all set up in Google Sheets. All you have to do is click the link in our show notes.
Even if you don't respond to any of our reflection questions, one form of reflection I think every teacher should do is to write a to-do list. This is a list of everything that went well this year. You did so many incredible things that nobody noticed, and a to-do list can be a great way to celebrate all of your wins. And send them to us if you fill one out. I'll give you all the gold stars for everything good you did.
Right? You did a great job managing all those pencils all year long, and not a single kid stood up and clapped.
It's just maddening. How rude. They don't even know how good they have it. But you do. So write down pencil, organization, and every other amazing thing you did on your to-do list.
And let's jump into our questions. We have a set of 3 questions for 6 different areas of teacher life. And we will briefly pause after each question to give you a chance to think. So don't think your podcast has gone dead. Our first set of questions has to do with being a teacher. What are you most proud of from this past school year? What caused you the most stress this past school year? When did you most enjoy being a teacher this year?
Hopefully that has your wheels turning. If you feel like these questions are bringing some big ideas to your mind, do yourself the favor of writing down your responses.
If all you can manage is just to listen and think, that is still beneficial. But if you do have a few minutes to journal, your future self will really appreciate being able to refer back to your thoughts in a few months.
Our next set of questions has to do with students. What did you learn about your students this year? Which student showed the most improvement? Why do you think this student did so well? In what ways did you impact the lives of your students this year?
Be careful that you don't let these questions weigh you down. It's so easy to look back and see all the places where you don't feel like you match the kind of teacher you aspire to be, but you did the best you could at the time. Even if you had been able to make different decisions, you would still be looking back and feeling like you dropped the ball somewhere else.
Reflection requires courage. We have to be willing to be honest about the ways we've fallen short, but also have to be honest about the thousands of ways we showed up. One missed opportunity to connect doesn't outweigh all the incredible ways you validated your students throughout the year. The fact that you care if you did a good job is proof that you're doing amazing things. If you're bothering to listen to teacher podcasts on your free time, I guarantee you are doing a great job.
Ready to feel calm, confident, and classroom ready for fall? Join us for the second annual Teacher Summer Talks, a free audio summit packed with practical tips from over 35 real teachers. No screens, no stress. Just smart ideas that you can listen to anywhere. Grab your free ticket at secondstorywindow.net/summit. Okay, let's move to a little lighter topic and reflect on our curriculum. When did you feel like students really engaged in their learning? Were you able to cover all of your curriculum? How can you adjust your pacing to move more quickly or to allow more time for tricky topics? What's one way you'd like to grow as a teacher in order to more positively impact student learning?
This is where I put a lot of my focus each summer. I found that I needed to plan as much of my curriculum as I could during summer because I just didn't have the time or the energy to deal with it during the school year.
And there are always so many fun new ideas to try. Revamping curriculum is much more fun than our next category, which is behavior management.
Yeah, I didn't love planning behavior management as much as I loved planning reading units, but it's definitely an area that needs some consideration. So for behavior management, ask yourself, what were your biggest successes with student behavior this year? What were your biggest challenges? When did your routines and procedures best serve you? When did they let you down? Were you successful at preventing or minimizing behavior problems? What can you do to better prevent behavior problems from arising in the future?
And close on the heels of behavior management, we have classroom management. What were your organizational successes this year? And what were your organizational challenges? When did your class schedule and routine work in your favor? And when did they cause friction? Which systems for planning, grading, and managing your workload were helpful and efficient? And which systems need to be adjusted to make your job easier?
Phew, that's probably got you thinking of a lot right now. Each school year brings its own highs and lows. It's important to be honest without being too hard on ourselves. If this conversation has got you down, try to imagine what you would say to one of your students.
Right. You would never criticize a student who is trying to learn. So give yourself the same grace. But hopefully, as you're looking back, it's mostly good memories with just a few opportunities for setting goals.
Now let's do the fun part of reflection, which is anticipating all the ways we're going to be wiser and better going forward. As we start looking ahead to next year, consider, at the end of the next school year, what would make you look back and say you'd had a successful year? What are your next steps in preparing for the next school year? What advice would you give your future self as you move toward another school year?
Reflection doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be intentional. As we have gone through these questions, make sure that you are writing your insights where they can be useful to you going forward.
If you want all of these questions in one place, make sure to check out the freebie journal pages we have listed in the show notes. The to-do and to-da lists are in that same place.
Summer really is the perfect time to make positive changes in the areas where you notice some challenges this year. If you want some guidance on how to turn those goals into practices, make sure to sign up for our new course.
Knowing how busy you are, we designed a back-to-school audio course so you can listen while you do other things this summer, like relax poolside. We'll walk you through everything you need to do to set your intentions, identify your priorities, set up your systems, and actually get things done so that you can have the best back-to-school season ever. I can't think of a better gift to give your future self.
The first round of our course will be for a limited number of teachers so that we can offer you the best support possible. If you want to be the first to know when we open the course so that you can make sure you have a seat, head to secondstorywindow.net/waitlist to sign up.
We'd love to hear how reflecting has helped you as a teacher. Come join the conversation in our Teacher Approved Facebook group. Now let's talk about this week's Teacher Approved tip. Each week we leave you with a small, actionable tip that you can apply in your classroom today. This week's Teacher Approved tip is save your old crayons and pencils. Why would we do such a crazy thing, Heidi?
Well, a normal tip for this time of year would be to clean out all the old beat up supplies. But in this case, you might actually want to save a few things. Emily and I love to use guided discovery to teach students how to care for their supplies.
And we do a deep dive into guided discovery in episode 75 if you want a refresher.
As part of that guided discovery process, we don't let students use materials until we formally introduced our expectations for them. It does take some planning, but you can definitely start your first day without pencils and crayons. Now, I'm not holding off on giving out pencils because I think there will be problems, right? Kids on the first day are very unlikely to misuse school supplies. It's day 2 where you're going to have problems. But part of the fun of a guided discovery lesson is the reveal. You're not just giving your students a pencil. You are entrusting them with a shiny new tool that they will use all year to learn and grow. But that doesn't mean that it is always practical to wait to hand out your pencils. If your students need to write or color before you have a chance to formally introduce pencils and crayons, one way to still keep the magic in your guided discovery lesson is to have students use your old stubby supplies to start with. Then when you are ready for your guided discovery, you can reveal the beautiful new boxes of crayons or the bouquet of freshly sharpened pencils.
And you have such a good gateway for a meaningful conversation. Did you notice the state of these old pencils? How can we treat our pencils so we keep them looking nice and new?
Yes, so bag up some of your old pencils and crayons before you start cleaning everything out. And maybe you also want to hold on to some old glue sticks or scissors or anything else you might want students to use before you teach about them.
Make sure to go back to episode 75 to learn more about guided discovery and episode 78 if you want to know how we start the first day of school without any pencils and crayons. Spoiler, we use pattern blocks and there's a whole thought process behind that. So come and listen to that episode. And we also happen to have an awesome guided discovery resource to help you introduce all your school tools to your students. We'll link to that in the show notes.
And we also have a fun back to school pattern blocks resource if you want the very first activity of your very first day of school already planned out for you. And all of that will be in the show notes.
Got good stuff in the show notes this week. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. We hope this Can't Miss Classic gave you just the breath of fresh air or quiet validation you needed today.
Whether you're scribbling in a notebook or just letting ideas simmer while you stare out a window, you are doing it right. Reflection doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be honest.
You've done amazing things this year, even if it doesn't always feel that way. So take a deep breath, take a break, and take pride in the work you've done.
If this episode resonated with you, we would love it if you shared it with a fellow teacher who could use a moment of encouragement too.
We'll be back next week with another Can't Miss Classic to help you start the school year strong.
Until then, you've got this. We are cheering you on. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Teacher Approved. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Emily. Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow or subscribe in your podcast app so that you never miss an episode.
You can connect with us and other teachers in the Teacher Approved Facebook group. We'll see you here next week. Bye for now.
Bye. So did you grab your free ticket to Teacher Summer Talks yet? It's free, it's audio, and it'll help you start the year strong without sacrificing your summer. Get your ticket at secondstorywindow.net/summit.